For today's video, I decided to try another USA Battle Royale, but the twist is every 10 years the worst state gets crab bombed. And this time I did remember to add Utah. If you guys remember, I somehow missed them in the last Battle Royale video, but they're here now, so yeah. As far as world laws, we enabled diplomacy, as well as angry villagers and natural disasters, but the people of this world have much worse things to worry about. We started off in year 2, and the states expanded their borders as quick as they could. And Utah somehow lost one of their people in like the first 10 seconds. Not sure how that happened. The states in New England area began to be very crowded very quickly. They were going to need to do something quick if they were going to survive. Vermont also ended up kind of looking like a banana, which is pretty great. But the ones that were most in trouble were Arizona and California, who even at year 8 only had 2 population and hadn't even built a single structure. And at year 10, nothing had changed, and one of them would have to die. I decided to flip a coin, heads for California and tails for Arizona. Arizona was the unlucky one. California, after witnessing the crater that was now Arizona, now decided they would get their act together and build their first tent. But with being so behind, would they catch up before year 20? We'd have to find out. Colorado was the first state to build a second colony, taking advantage of the empty space Arizona left behind. And in year 16, states began to construct armies, sensing the coming war. Soon, year 20 was upon them, and it was time for another sacrifice. Surprisingly, it was not California, but came down to Massachusetts and Connecticut. Flipped another coin, and Massachusetts was the loser. Goodbye, Massachusetts. I never knew how to spell your name in school. Massachusetts was now out, and unfortunately, New York and Rhode Island were caught in the crossfire. Also at this time, South Dakota decided there could only be one true Dakota, and declared war on their neighbor. The war waged on between the Dakotas, and ultimately, the North was successful. Oregon also decided to declare war on California, a battle in which California was greatly outnumbered, and in the year 22, California was conquered by Oregon. A lot of other wars were also started at this time, including Wisconsin versus Minnesota, Kansas versus Nebraska, and a lot of other ones. Wisconsin was captured by Minnesota, adding to the Minnesota Empire, and Texas had been destroyed by Oklahoma. Then Wyoming was also being conquered by Utah somehow. I'm not really sure how. Okay, never mind. They're dead. And at the same time, New Mexico had declared war on Colorado, who were outnumbered as far as population goes, but did have a larger army. Not only that, they also had Walter on their side. New Mexico was able to claim Colorado's second colony, but now having lost so many soldiers in the fight, they were outnumbered, and they were quickly conquered by Colorado. Their victory was short-lived though, and they soon came under attack by Washington. Few other states had been destroyed during this time, such as Georgia, Vermont, Maryland, North Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi. Next on the chopping block was Missouri, who was conquered by Arkansas. We were now coming up on year 30. Minnesota had just fallen, meaning Connecticut now had the least population. RIP Connecticut. And also parts of some of the neighboring states. At this time, some world powers started to emerge, such as Washington with 230 population, Michigan with 121, and Oregon with 117. Indiana, despite literally being the weakest state right now, decided they also wanted to go to war, which went about exactly as you'd expect. At this time, 2 other states had fallen. Montana had been captured by Idaho, and Iowa was now under Oklahoma's control. North Dakota had also become a large empire, now not just being North Dakota and South Dakota, but also East Dakota and West Dakota. The most powerful state now was Oregon, who now had their sights on conquering Washington. They had taken their northern states and now focused on the south. A lot of New England states, while peaceful for most of this game, now declared war on their neighbors,
hoping to avoid God's judgment.
New Hampshire took over Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania set their sights on taking New York's land. Maine also fell to New Hampshire. Year 40 came, and West Virginia had the lowest population. At this point, it was really just a mercy killing, because literally everyone's at war with them. Soon after, Tennessee fell to Michigan, and Michigan was now emerging as a force to be reckoned with at 200 population. The top contenders now were Oregon, North Dakota, Michigan, and Florida. Idaho was also being worn down by Nevada. They only had 1 soldier left, Itawowu, our great hero stopping at nothing to defend his home state. And he actually somehow captured a whole colony by himself. I don't know how that happened. North Dakota and Louisiana decided to split Illinois' colonies amongst themselves. They were pretty much just free real estate at this point. And somehow Idaho continued to not just stay alive, but claim colonies, despite only having a few soldiers. All good things had to come to an end though, and the Great Potato State was no exception. We were coming up now on year 50, and 2 states were on the verge of destruction. Would Pennsylvania lose enough population to fall below Louisiana? We'd have to see. They had fallen below Louisiana's population, but Louisiana still was in trouble if Pennsylvania was destroyed before year 50. They were, and this meant the end of Louisiana. At this point, only 9 states remained: Oregon, Nevada, Washington, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Michigan, Florida, Delaware, and New Hampshire. And in the year 47, a treaty was signed between Oregon and Washington. Though this treaty was signed after Oregon killed almost all of Washington's population, but you know what? It's fine. It's water under the bridge. Delaware was soon conquered by Florida, and there was a temporary moment of peace between the states until Washington had to go and mess it up. Washington and Oregon declared war on Nevada, which, being surrounded by all sides, Nevada did not stand a chance. The proposed war went through between North Dakota and Michigan, and their forces met at the border. They were fairly evenly matched, so the battle lasted a long while. But eventually, North Dakota broke through into Michigan, and at year 57, Michigan had dropped to 200 population. Oklahoma and Florida at this time joined North Dakota's side, hoping to get some of that sweet Michigan pie. If that wasn't enough though, we also hit year 60 before Michigan was destroyed by the other states, so yeah, I kind of felt bad destroying them, but not that bad. Florida and New Hampshire also went to war. They had similar populations, and if one of them could defeat the other, they would become a huge empire. At this time, North Dakota had also been dealing with an attack from Oregon and Washington. They literally didn't even capture them, they just straight up destroyed them. Things were not looking good either for Florida. Not that they ever are. New Hampshire had tipped the scales of the war, and with Florida's population having dropped down to below 200, they were next in line for extinction at year 70. After Florida's destruction, the rest of the states decided to go after Oklahoma. We were now just 2 years before the next state got crab bombed, and Oklahoma's numbers were at risk of dropping below New Hampshire. And yeah, they did. We had 9 years of peace, and on the verge of year 70, Oregon and Washington dissolved their treaty and planned to go to war. But at this point, it was too late for Oregon. They had run out of time. And at year 98, Washington declared war on New Hampshire. But again, this is right before year 100. So yeah, the crab bombs destroyed them before Washington could. New Hampshire was the last state to go, meaning Washington had won. The battle lasted 100 years and the death count was 8,000.